once you get started and you realize, whoa, this is nothing at all. What maybe I could do better vetting. Maybe I'm just too trusting.
Well, if
at
you
the
don't
gate.
know, right? You're like, I've never
Yeah.
built software before. What's it like to hire a good software developer? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's it like to hire a bad one? I don't know. How long should something take? I don't know. Like, it's hard to know, right? You don't know.
Yeah.
Just like if I hired somebody to do like construction in my house, like how long does it take to remodel a kitchen? I don't know. I have no idea. A month? 12 months? I don't know. Right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you don't know what you don't know. And that's part of the problem of being an entrepreneur, especially walking into tech, right? You're like, how do I build this thing? How do I do this?
Yeah.
But you're an expert now. Now you know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it helped too is when Scott, our CTO, when he's able to come on board. And once he came on board, man, it was like the skies parted, sun came out, everything aligned, and we started moving a lot more rapid pace, and that really helped us out for sure.
And we're back for another episode of the Startup Hustle. This is your host, Matt Watson. Very excited to be joined today by Robby Yates, who is the co-founder and chief everything officer. That's what CEO stands for. At least that's what it feels like my job is some days. Of the FollowApp, we're going to be talking today about networking. He has some really cool software for networking. Also want to talk about white labeling. And he said something to me before we started about how he had to go from the sales guy to the IT guy. I think there's something to that we got to dig into. For those of you who are out there that are entrepreneurs, for how do I build software? Like, I think Robbie's going to teach us some things today. So before we get started, I do want to remind you, if you need to hire software developers, you can definitely check us out at Full Scale. We have over 300 employees in the Philippines to do work for dozens of other startups and scale-ups, no matter what your tech stack is. Usually costs 60, 70% less than normal to hire somebody. Check us out at fullscale.io. Robbie, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, man, it's great to be here. Appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out, Matt.
So you gotta tell me, what does it mean to go from sales guy to IT guy?
Yeah, absolutely. So for that, I was actually talking about networking. I was at an event, and when I was in sales, I feel like we're always in sales though, so I never just officially got rid of that. But I was trying to find something, another tool to the arsenal to help me out. And then I tried to find an app or some software to help me. Really wasn't anything that kind of fit the mold that I was looking for. So then I thought, hey, well, see if we can't put a team together, see if we can't create this. So that's how it kind of evolved. And then now here I am, been in IT for a little while.
Well, that's almost every business idea starts, right? Like a friend of mine was trying to build outdoor kitchen cabinets, custom ones, couldn't find them. So he's like, you know what? I guess I'm going to start a business creating kitchen cabinets, right? Like that's the way a lot of business ideas start. And I'm actually incubating a couple of them right now at Full Scale. Like we were trying to find some stuff, couldn't find it. And you're like, you know what? We got some extra developers. Why don't we build this thing? Maybe we can sell it to other people, right? That's how most ideas start. And sometimes we're just crazy enough to actually go execute on them, right? So you decided to be that crazy person. Like, I'm going to go start a company doing this. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was just diving in head first, just jumping in the deep end and kind of removing the floaties and just saying, hey, let's, sink or swim, Tom. Let's see what we do. So then just reaching out to local developers and just having meetings to see collaboration, see if they can help out, what that looks like. And then that opened up to meeting another developer to then trying to figure out, okay, how we're going to fund this. That came a whole nother world too. So then learning how to talk to investors, finding the right investors, and then how do we scale, where to put your trust. And then a lot of times you're putting a lot of trust on a lot of pretty much strangers that especially that I don't know of. And then with these developers, hoping this guy can, get us off the ground and build this thing, take what's in my head. And it was, so that's how it kind of evolved. And then you learn from pain points. Like, this isn't going to work. Okay, how do we change, and who else can we implement to help get us further across the goal line?
So how long did it take you from that original idea to having kind of a MVP that you could go and promote and try and get users?
That is a fantastic question. The short answer, it took us 3 years.
Okay.
And and I know that's a long ways, but I will say that it came through a lot of pain points, honestly, and growing pains and not knowing just went to, not really what to ask, but I put a lot, like I said before, a lot of trust in a lot of people. I know we speaking beforehand. I had this one guy, incredible individual. Still have a lot of respect for him, but he was trying to do. I put a lot of faith in him, and I realized I was putting too much work on himself and myself too. He was wanting to do Android, iPhone, and website, and develop it and create it all. And not saying that he can't. I'm not saying there's anybody out there that can't do that. So that's one thing that took us a little while, is one person creating and doing everything.
But 3 years
And
is a long time, right? To get to the MVP. Like, was there something
yeah,
specific there that really took you guys on like a year or two journey that you had to come back from, or?
yeah. The initially, like we're like the direction we're heading, it realized that wasn't the the route we needed to go, so we changed, and then finding finding the right resources and funding for it, and then in the meantime, meeting with countless investors and trying to have somebody that is bought into the idea and sees it and sees the fruits of the labor, if you will, and then we found a company, honestly, to help us out with, to create some development. That didn't work out, so we lost some money there because they didn't create or do anything near that we thought they were going to do. We were trying to. I'm all about communication and if something doesn't go right, just let me know. Then we could make a change, make an adjustment. This one company, there's no point. I'm not going to say a name, but they were never showing me any tests. I'm like, let me see what you're working. I don't care if it's during the middle of the test. The code doesn't work or whatever. I want to see the progression,
I
how
want to
far
see
you've got.
progress. What am I paying for?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I never saw anything.
So in the last 5 minutes, you've said the same words several different times in different ways. That's really, really important, and it's trust, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're starting out early in a company, you got to have business partners you can trust, like co-founders or vendors, developers, like employees. Like it all comes down to trust, right? And it sounds like you probably learned a lot of lessons along the way of who you trusted and trusted the wrong person and all the different things along the way there, it sounds like.
Oh, hands down. Yeah. And like I said earlier, you trusted a stranger out the gate, hoping they can get it. The word is
Yeah.
just as much gold as you would think. And then once you get started and you realize, whoa, this is nothing at all. What maybe I could do better vetting. Maybe I'm just too trusting.
Well, if you don't know, right? You're like, I've never
Yeah.
built software before. What's it like to hire a good software developer? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's it like to hire a bad one? I don't know. How long should something take? I don't know. Like it's hard to know, right? You don't know.
Yeah.
Just like if I hired somebody to do like construction in my house, like how long does it take to remodel a kitchen? I don't know. I have no idea. A month? 12 months? I don't know. Right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you don't know what you don't know. And that's part of the problem of being an entrepreneur, especially walking into tech, right? You're like, how do I build this thing? How do I do this?
Yeah.
But you're an expert now. Now you know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it helped too is when Scott, our CTO, when he's able to come on board, and once he came on board, man, it was like the skies parted, sun came out, everything aligned, and we started moving a lot more rapid pace, and that really helped us out for sure.
Well, it's all about the right people, so that's good. That's good. You finally found the right person. So,
Yep.
5 years later, you're an overnight success. So, tell us about how the business is doing now, and tell me about how it changed. You said like, hey, we tried this thing, it didn't work. Over 5 years, things inevitably usually change a little bit. So, tell me, how does the business change, and what's different about it today?
Well, today we're white labeling our software now, where just to make it that much easier for businesses to promote, because we had initially where we had subscribers and paid subscribers, and that was great with a free version, and also a paid version of the software, and that was, well, we're getting some traction, but we thought, hey, the best way to really move the needle a lot further, if you will, is shift over to white label and to then have the organizations pay for it, and then they're promoting it to their members themselves.
So you did something that I see a lot, like a pivot from selling kind of more business to consumer to going B2B, selling to other businesses. And for you, that was like a game changer, right? Like
Yeah.
that dramatically changed your business. When you were selling directly to consumers, to, professionals, I mean, they're still busy, professionals, but a lot of them don't pay, and they don't pay very much, right? Like it's very difficult. You're like working really, really hard to sell them something for, I think you told me like $2 or $5 a month. Like you gotta sell a lot of them, right? It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even the annual subscriptions we floated between 79 for the year, 49.99 to 29. We tested different versions. Really didn't see the needle move one way or the other that drastic between the annual subscriptions. Some people saw it right away and got it. But then once we shifted over to the organizations paying it for when they're promoting their app, we're just, we're taking care of everything in the back end. That was, able to have a larger dose of capital, if you will, versus, I guess, kind of best way that I can describe it is kind of like nickel and dime it with subscriptions,
Yeah.
which are fine. But I mean, you have to have a massive amount. But shifted to the white labeling, that was a complete game changer for us.
So do they pay annually, like a few $1,000s or something? So it's
Yep.
like you pull that cash flow forward, you get one big payment.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So based on the size of members they have and how many events they have throughout the year, and it kind of fluctuates on that. So then once they have the initial cost, and plus too, we're working with them too because we don't want to say, we never have said, hey, this is a box, jump in it. We have pretty much a base framework, but then there are some other things we've done collaborating with them and to help build that trust. Is that word again, right? So there's some
Yeah.
stuff that they want to see for their members. And so we say, absolutely. So we're talking to them and trying to negotiate and figure out what they want to see their brand and how they want to best represent themselves. And then so we'll work with that too. We don't just say, hey, jump in this box and this is all you have.
So one thing you mentioned earlier I thought was interesting, I want to go back to, was you played around with different price points, either monthly or annually, and didn't really find pricing sensitivity mattered all that much, which I think is important for those who are listening to think about. A lot of times if you're charging, $99 a year, going to $49 is not going to magically necessarily make a big difference, because it's almost like $99 a year. Like, it's almost freaking free. I literally spent $200 last night on dinner for my family and with my parents. Like $99 a year, whether it's 99 or 40, what the hell's the difference? It doesn't even matter, right? Like pricing sensitivity, you can't put too much focus on price. I think is part of what you figured out. Like, it was more about the value they get, not what the price was.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we thought it would be a drastic change if we lowered it and really didn't see much difference. And then we kept it the same. It was, yeah, it didn't really, move the pendulum as much as we thought it would.
Well, and I tell people all that time about why they should raise their prices, right? It's like every year you should raise your prices and stuff like that, right? It's like people love your product, they're paying $99. You're like, if you up the price to 109, like how many of them are going to cancel? Probably not that many, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing with price increases later. So interesting tidbit, I think, lesson that you learned there that I've always kind of seen is pricing sensitivity is not near as big of a thing as people think it is.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. It's all about how you position it too, and the value of it. And then once they see it, then yeah, then it really doesn't have an effect to it too much, I believe.
So I really want to talk more about white labeling, but before we do that, I want to ask you more about when you pivot from this B2C to selling to these groups, did you have to change the product very much, or was the product the same, or did you have to go build like all these new things?
No, we really didn't have to build a whole lot of anything. To really kind of, I touched on a minute ago, is when we, if we're sitting down and we're talking, and let's say if you and I, if you're um, the director of the organization, you're saying, hey, I really like everything we have here. We're going to brand it. It's going to be, our organization. There has been some conversations where they wanted to add something. And then that's when we just had the talk of, okay, what are you looking to add? And so we have an idea of like the extent of it. So then we know pretty much how much to build in there, to the price point. Because we have a general idea of once we go to the table, but then, we're always up to negotiate, see what else we can, what other value you can bring to the table.
So tell me more about white labeling, and was that something that you had experience with before? Like, how did you figure out that white labeling was part of the solution?
That is 100%. I give credit to on our advisory board, one of my advisors just said, hey, why don't we just, he goes, when you open up your laptop and it says powered by Intel, he goes, why don't we just say powered by FollowApp? I thought, man, it's an eureka moment. Like, okay. So then we went down that path, and then that's how it kind of changed and evolved. So I firmly believe to do anything, not just software, but with anything that you're doing, build whatever company you're going down, you actually have to build, and it's the right people, put the right people around the right people in the right um, what's the word? I'm kind of like a Sherpa. If you're trying to climb up Mount Everest, I'm not going to go to Everest and go up and go there by myself. I'm going to get the Sherpas. So I make sure I can ascend this thing the proper way. And that's how I feel like building any type of company. So I have a great advisory board. We collaborate. And then one of them said, hey, let's, white label this. And then I was like, okay, let's do it. So then that's how it evolved.
So once you went to the white labeling, though, you probably had to make some changes to the software.
The only thing that we really changed, and then it's just on the splash screen. So when they go to open up the app, so then we control everything on the back end. So when they go to look up their organization in the App Store, their logo is going to pop up there. It's going to, not our logo, but once they open up the app, we're at the bottom, the splash screen, and then we're able to have it. We only change so some of these organizations, they're having a sponsor pay an exclusive sponsorship for the whole year. So that way their exclusive sponsor is in the hands of all the members during the event, after the event. So then we're putting an embedded link to the website. So if people want to, they can drive traffic to the sponsor's website. So we're seeing the organization's logo in there. So everything that you look like when you're running through the app, it looks like that particular organization, except we're just taking care of everything on the back end. And we're sending them reports too. So there's a few changes, but nothing that was too significant.
But one of the bigger challenges you have to have is when you go to deploy this app, right? Don't you have to make a new version for Apple and Android for like every one of your clients? Don't they all
Yes.
have different? Like that
Yeah.
sounds like a giant pain in the neck.
I thought it would be, honestly, but then I was looking through and going there, and it really wasn't. Hasn't been to this point. It's just really just going through kind of a rinse and repeat, and then adding everything to it. The only thing that we change as far as like the app store, we sit down and we collaborate with the organizations of, hey, what do you want your description of your app to say within there? And to make it easier, because they have enough going on their plate, we give them a general idea of a description, and then I send it to them. If they say, hey, that's great, that represents us well, or just having a meeting. It's kind of like you're doing now. Like you're picking out certain things that I say, and you're kind of like, hey, this is great, and you're adding on to it. So I do the same thing in the meetings with them. I say, well, you've mentioned this about your branding. This is some words you like to use. Are you okay if I add this in there? Once we have their stamp of approval, then we put that in their description on the App Store, and then we release it and test it.
Well, if you need help getting an app in the App Store, Full Scale can help. We do that too. We have lots of mobile developers, Android,
Absolutely.
iOS, Flutter, React Native, all those different things. You can check us out at fullscale.io. Got a lot of people do that stuff.
Yeah, I wrote it down. We'll check it out after we talk for sure.
So let's talk more about networking. Like, I feel like as an entrepreneur, it's one of the most valuable things we can do. And actually, most of the businesses that I have started, three of the businesses I started, I was the co-founder. I was not the original even founder with the idea. I was the co-founder.
Okay.
And they all came from networking, either people that I already knew or friends of a friend. Networking is by far one of the most powerful things that we can do. Tell us how to do it, Robbie. How do we do it?
Yeah, well, you have to be intentional about it for sure. And you definitely can't just show up with a me mentality of, okay, who can I sell today? What can I get out of this? And can't make it about yourself. Just kind of have to put yourself in the background and then kind of go into it. And I say kind of listening with both ears, as odd as that. Obviously, we have two ears, but the reason why I say that, because one, you have to be listening for something in your business, but also is listening out for somebody else that you can help. And once you're able to refer somebody some business, especially if you know it's going to be a good collaboration, you'll be surprised of how the universe opens up and an opportunity land in your lap because you're listening for somebody else and you're trying to help somebody else's business. And one thing I say too is have fun with it, because showing up saying, hey, Matt, what do you do? Well, I mean, that's such an easy go-to question. And I know we get it all the time. I like to just kind of have fun with it. Just saying, like, if I just make it for the first time, it would be, hey, Matt, who are you here to try to get connected with? How can I help grow your business? And then just by saying something that simple, you're immediately going to start saying who you try to connect with. And by listening, you're going to end up telling me what you do anyways. And it kind of opens the door a lot more to finding out what somebody does. And you'll know immediately too, if it's a fit or if it's a not fit. And if it's not a fit, then maybe there's somebody that I know in my network that I can refer you to and bring you business.
That's the thing that I've always learned about networking is you just never know who you're going to meet. And there are like 2 degrees of separation of somebody else that could be really helpful to you. And you just have no idea. But
Yeah.
I feel like the hardest thing of all is follow up. Like I meet with people and they're like, oh yeah, we should meet again and do this thing. And then like I never follow up. Like I suck at it. Is that the biggest problem? Like we all suck at follow up.
Part of it is, I feel like for sure, but that's where organizations they use our software because they can actually make it that much easier for individuals within those groups to reach out and follow up to people. But in that regard too, I mean, it's some places they'll actually have a list of who's going to be attending that organization. So if you know there's somebody in particular or a company you want to try to work with or connect with, you can almost kind of see on there who's going to be there beforehand. And that's what I was saying before. Kind of show it with intent because I've asked people before of, hey, who are you here to meet, or what business, who's a good referral partner or client for you? And some people say, I'm just here for the food and the network. There's got to be more to it.
I'm here because I have 3 kids at home and the kids aren't here. That's why I'm here.
Some people, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people just show up for the free meal. I understand that one too.
Yeah.
Well, what other tips do you have for networking? Obviously, you worked in sales and you built software specifically to help people with networking. What other tips do you have for networking?
That is, you kind of almost have to, like, I will say, man, when I first started networking, I don't know why, man. I realized I was getting in my own way before I walked through a set of doors. And I realized we can't tell ourselves no before we walk through a set of doors. And you said it earlier, we're all kind of like 2 degrees separation from somebody. So somebody I might meet and maybe able to introduce me to somebody else. It's not going to be a home run out the gate. So, I mean, used to call my wife before I walk into an event. She's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I just got to hear your voice. Let me know why I'm here. And then I would walk into the room. And I think some people, because not everybody's an extrovert. So those that have social anxiety or introverted, just we can't tell ourselves no before we walk into a room. And just by walking up saying hi just to one person, man, that could be a complete game changer. You don't have to work the whole room. If there's 100 people in there, hey, so be it. Find somebody that's standing off to the side, just walk up, talk to them, and just, create that warm introduction. Before you know it, that person, man, they may have a network of people that they can introduce you to, or they may be able to help your business. You just never know.
I actually saw a TikTok video about this the other day about how more introverted people get exhausted by networking events,
Yep.
like you're saying. And somebody's response was that you don't get tired from networking. You get tired from wearing the mask. You get tired for trying to be somebody you're not. So I think the recommendation was like, when you go to these events, just be yourself instead of just trying to pretend to be somebody else at these events. And maybe that's what wears people out. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, some degree. I think my wife, for example, she is more introverted, but you wouldn't know it if you wouldn't meet her because she's very outgoing. She's hilarious, and she knows how to work a room. But at the same time, afterwards, her energy is just zapped because she feels like she has to be on.
Yeah.
And it's not that she's creating a facade. I mean, that's who she is, but she feels like she has to have her energy level raised up a little bit because she doesn't want to be just sitting on the sidelines, kind of watching everything take place. So she just feels like she has to be on her game more, and that can be exhausting. So I can see where that comes into play for sure.
Yeah, one of my business partners and one of my companies is that way. Like if you met her at one of these events, you'd think she's like one of the nicest people in the world. But afterwards, I think she's ready to cry. Like she doesn't want to see another human for like days. Yeah. Like she's like, in reality, I hate people. I hate talking to people. But when you see her, like she doesn't seem that way at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see where at some point people can feel like it's a mask, but it really isn't. It's just, they're just out, man, doing what they can to work a room, but it takes a lot of energy to do that.
So what are some of the features that your software helps with in regards to this sort of stuff?
Well, one, it helps to see who's in the room with you at the same time, like in a real event versus. So some people will send a list out, right? And they'll be able to find out, okay, hey, ABC company's going to be there and Matt's going to be there. Well, you may not be able to go that day and you may have to send me in your place. So then when you go to the event, you're actually able to see, oh, actually Robbie's here representing ABC company. and not Matt. Make it easier to walk up, create that warm introduction. Or if you're missing out, so when you go to an event, if you're lucky, if you are still collecting business cards, either digitally or virtually, you may get 5 to 7 contacts. Well, we're open up the playbook. You're able to connect with everybody in the room. So if there's an event with 300 people, you're able to get 300 contacts. And then after that, you're talking about follow up. Then you're able to reach out to the virtual Rolodex. We're sorting everything alphabetically by industry because everybody has a set industry that they work with, a referral source. And we're also putting a preferred method of contact in there. So if your preferred method of contact is text, then if I see you in an event and I work with, let's say if I collaborate well with agriculture, then I'll look and like, okay, great, Matt's in agriculture. Okay, well, I'm not going to bother wasting a phone call or an email because I might not hear from you for ever or like a few days, but I see your preferred method of contact is text. Then it makes it that much easier. I can just text you, hey, Matt, I miss you at the luncheon. Make it that much easier. And then we can kind of, continue that conversation on. And then you're able to pull everybody that you missed at the event to a spreadsheet. So you're able to take that spreadsheet, export it to your CRM if you like to. And on the flip side, we're also helping the organizations increase their revenue and member retention and increase their non-dues revenue.
So I'd love to go back. I want to talk more about being a non-technical founder and starting a software company. Yeah. Sounds like you went through the gamut for the last 5 years, struggled for the first 2 or 3 to kind of get the product off the ground. I'm curious, what kind of tips do you have for other entrepreneurs after going through that specifically?
Yeah, well, first, if you have an idea, go for it. I mean, it's daunting, but go for it. Tip I would say is build a strong team, and definitely before you start investing and spend a lot of money, really figure out if the idea is going to come to fruition by kind of going through, if you're able to, at least get 100 questions under your belt and start going through, kind of doing surveys to see if it's a need, if it's a fit, and if you feel like that is the case. And then I know 100 seems like a lot, but before you know it, man, that adds up really fast. And then from there, don't build everything on a deck of cards. Build it with a strong foundation. And put a team around you. Get a team of advisors around you that have walked the path before you.
How hard was it to do the fundraising part of this?
That was really tough. Just because, I found some incredible investors around Memphis, and I wanted to keep people that like the first around people that I knew, because I wanted to sit down, talk to them, learn about their background instead of just going online. And I know there are websites out there you can find investors, but I wanted to sit down and actually, have lunch, have coffee with these people so I can make sure that they'd be a fit for us. Just because they may potentially have money to invest doesn't mean it's going to be the right fit for either one of you. So that was really difficult. But by doing that, by meeting so many people, talking about networking, I was actually in a networking event. Someone walked up to me and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for an investor. Are you still looking for one?" I said, "Absolutely." So then that's how I ended up getting my first investors through a networking event.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that ironic? So did you raise the money from a few different angels, or did you work with like an angel group or like a bigger like fund, or how did you end up raising the money?
No, it's just from that one individual. And then there's another one that we reached out to, sat down, was talking with, and then it was just a good fit. So we didn't go to a group, we didn't go to any type of angel, firm or anything like that. We just kept it local and, through networking, finding the right people, and then got told no a lot. That's another thing too. Advice is like, don't be, embrace the word no and have fun with it. Realize it's nothing personal. Just there's always something else behind the no. It's not who you are. It's not the way you look or smell. It's just, it's just we get told no. It happens.
So what's next for your company? Where are you guys and the growth of this? Do you see yourself need to raise money again, or just continue to plod along? What's the plan?
The goal right now is not to raise any funds. We don't, the white labeling we talked about a while ago, that's actually helping us increase our capital faster than the subscriptions, and that's definitely help us with our growth. Down the road, There's a couple of individuals we're looking to bring on and hire. So just growth right now in that mindset. And then that's going to help increase our capital more for all those things that we have down the road that we have backlogged that we want to incorporate.
How do you see the product changing? Do you see adding a lot more features and different things to it, or?
Yeah, there's a few that we have backlogged just from having conversations with some other organizations and what they like to have. There's one, if this project goes into fruition, there's a lot that we're going to have to change, and there's a lot that we're going to have to bring on board. So that it could be, it will be really beneficial for us. But there's, as you talked about earlier about like change, that's going to be a big change on the back end. So we'll have to bring a couple more developers on for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard whether that is that a opportunity or a distraction, right? Like, does that help you move the product in the right direction where you can sell that same set of features to a bunch of other people?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that like a distraction? We're like, hey, no, we kind of went sideways. We went and built this thing over here that nobody else cares about.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, it would actually be a benefit because it would just take what we have here. It's kind of like a skeleton. We're just adding on to it, make us a few changes to benefit both. Because then that, like doing this, would open up a lot of other doors to future other potentials and revenue streams for us. There's some other revenue streams other than one we have now that we're looking to bring into the fold.
Well, I really appreciate having you on the show today. I love going from the sales guy to the IT guy, right? Like being a non-technical founder, starting a tech company is always a big challenge. Once again, this was Robby Yates, co-founder and chief everything officer at FollowApp. Your guys' website is thefollowapp.co. We'll have links in the show notes and stuff. So on the way out, I always like to ask people, do you have any other final words of wisdom for other entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, the moments where it seems it's darkest and like it's daunting and like what the heck am I doing? Just know that you're building something, you're creating something that's going to help a lot of people, and just keep going and just believe in yourself for sure. Because I feel like we're all going to have those dark days, those dark moments, but just know that it's all for the best for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I do want to remind everybody that today's episode was brought to you by Fullscale. You can check us out at fullscale.io. We do have a newsletter. You can sign up for the Startup Puzzle newsletter. You go to startuphustle.xyz and click on newsletter. You can also watch this on YouTube and see our beautiful faces. So check us out on YouTube. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.